Hi everybody, this is Peter Wilson coming to you from Grace Waves Devotional in Manchester in the UK, and we're looking at this series, Grace, Spiritual Warfare. Today it is part 6, which is having our feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Ephesians 6:15 says, having shod your feet with the preparation of the gospel of peace. And you may say to me, how can the feet of peace be part of our defense in spiritual warfare? Surely peace is the opposite of war. Well, in Colossians 1:20 it says, Jesus made peace through the blood of his cross. And there seems to be another contradictory verse in Romans 16:20, which says, the God of peace will crush Satan under your feet shortly. And we must ask the question, what does it mean to make the peace? And why will the God of peace crush Satan? And the answer lies in 2 words. And they are, number 1, peacekeeper, and number 2, peacemaker. Let's begin by looking at peacekeeper. A peacekeeper is a person who will keep the peace at any cost. And to do so, they will lie, tell half-truths, avoid confrontation, manipulate and control, and sweep things under the carpet. Everything in them shouts out, I am not going to upset the apple cart. After Germany was defeated at the end of the 1914-18 World War I, the Allied powers of France, UK, Russia, Italy, Japan and America signed what was called the Treaty of Versailles. This treaty stripped Germany of all its land outside of Germany. They were forbidden to have any armed forces and could not move beyond the River Rhine. They also had to pay for the damage they caused the other nations in World War I. This lasted until about 1930, when the Germans secretly began to rearm and build up their military, navy and air force. This increased dramatically when Adolf Hitler came to power, and in 1936 Hitler broke the Treaty of Versailles by sending German troops to occupy the Rhineland. He then invaded Austria and then demanded the Sudetenland of Czechoslovakia. In 1938, this prompted Neville Chamberlain, the British Prime Minister, and other Allied powers to agree to allow Germany to retake the Sudetenland of Czechoslovakia as long as Germany went no further. Hitler agreed to this, and everyone signed what was called the Munich Agreement that brought peace. Neville Chamberlain famously returned to Britain and stood on the tarmac at London Airport waving a piece of paper in the wind of the Munich Agreement and calling it Peace in Our Time. Peace in our time. Chamberlain did this because he was a peacekeeper who wanted to avoid war at any cost. It was the same with many of the European powers. They all wanted to avoid war and were all peacekeepers. But in 1939, only a year after signing the Munich Agreement, Hitler broke it by invading Poland, forcing Europe once again to start World War II. This failure of Neville Chamberlain prompted his resignation as the British Prime Minister to be succeeded by Winston Churchill. Churchill was the exact opposite of Chamberlain. He wasn't a peacekeeper, he was a peacemaker. You see, a peacemaker will do whatever it takes to make the peace. They will tell the truth, confront people when it's needed, and will not sweep things under the carpet. If necessary, they will go to war in order to make the peace. And Churchill went to war with Germany in order to make the peace. It took 6 long years, but eventually, with the great help of America and people from many other nations, Germany was once again defeated, making the peace. See, Churchill was following in the footsteps of Jesus, who was also a peacemaker, not a peacekeeper. Colossians 1:19 and 20 says, "It pleased the Father in Christ to reconcile all things to himself, whether things on earth or things in heaven." Here it is. "Having made peace through the blood of his cross." You see, Jesus went to war with Satan and crushed him in order to make the peace between God and mankind. And so it is for you and I today. Are you a peacekeeper looking for a quiet life? If so, your feet will not be shod with the gospel of peace. No, you must become a peacemaker, willing to confront whatever stands in your way in order to take the gospel to the people wherever God has placed you. But it goes further than this. To be a peacemaker means to live out the gospel in our everyday life, in the home, in the workplace, and at church. And this will at times involve conflict and confrontation if we are to make the peace. There are church leaders, business owners, and Christians in everyday life who will avoid confrontation because they want to keep the peace. Can I tell you, this wreaks havoc in relationships and for long periods of time prevents the work of God from moving forward. You see, avoiding conflicts, confrontation, and telling the truth is a subtle form of control and manipulation. This is why we need the full restoration of the apostolic ministry. I call the apostolic ministry the don't mess with Bill ministry. Why? Because apostles will not sweep things under the carpet, but will in a righteous way confront anything that prevents the church from moving forward. Very often, elders in the local church are not equipped to deal with strife, relational problems, and controlling and manipulative people. But when they are part of an apostolic network of churches, they can call in the apostle when they need to confront such problems. This is what Paul did in his network of churches. When there were problems at Corinth and Galatia, he either visited them or sent them letters confronting issues and setting things in order. In 1 Corinthians 11:34, Paul had just finished confronting the abuse of the communion table and teaching the people how to rightly use it. And he said to them, "The rest I will set in order when I come." Paul sent Titus, who was also an apostle, to his churches in Crete and said to him in Titus 1:5, "I left you in Crete to set in order the things that are lacking and appoint elders in every city as I commanded you." You see, setting things in order is very much a part of apostolic ministry. You see, apostles are not people pleasers. By that, I don't mean that they will go out of their way to cause trouble, but I do mean that where they see a cabal of people or a family that are controlling a church situation, they will confront the problem with the authority given them by God. We are talking about people here. The church, like any other institution, can become corrupt and immoral. If we go back into church history, the Roman Catholic Church was the dominant church in the world up until the 14th century, when Martin Luther brought in the Protestant church. In what was called the 1,000 years of the Dark Ages, from 400 AD to 1400 AD, the Roman Catholic Church was extremely corrupt. And it was this corruption that led Martin Luther to confront its excesses. Luther was apostolic in this sense. He refused to sweep things under the carpet. So let me finish by saying that being a peacekeeper will always end in disaster, whether that's in your marriage, your family, your church, or your job or your business. But being a peacemaker will bring the true peace of God into your home, your marriage, your family, your church, your business. That's why Isaiah 52:7 says, "How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of those who bring good news, who proclaims peace, who brings glad tidings of good things and proclaims salvation." Friends, we all need leaders who are willing to do what is necessary to make the peace, because such leaders create an atmosphere of peace where people can flourish and be fruitful and become everything that God has called them to be. So I'll leave you to think about that, and I'll see you next week. So have a great day. Bye-bye.